Hello and welcome to Working Lunch, the Slow Chambers weekly series where we sit down with our community leaders and bring back some of that connection that we've been missing during these challenging times, and hopefully get to learn some new things about people in our community. My deepest apologies for our delay in getting started, especially to our guest, Ron Yukelson. I'm Jim D'Antona, President and CEO for the Slow Chamber of Commerce. And today you'll get to be a part of our conversation with Ron Yukelson, Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer with Wilshire Health and Community Services. Ron and I are Southern California transplants. He way before I, but still being able to celebrate how wonderful it is to be here. With more than 30 years as a senior level hospital administrator, almost half of that time on the Central Coast, Ron has experience on leadership teams in both nonprofit and private healthcare agencies. A highly engaged community member, Ron currently serves on committees and boards for, I think, every organization throughout the county. Well, maybe not that many, but I know he serves the Slow Chamber of Commerce, Cal Poly, the Slow County YMCA, Leadership Slow, and many others. Ron is also one of our most regular Working Lunch viewers, and I'm delighted to have him on the other side of the camera today so we can talk about the healthcare industry, the unique work done by Wilshire, and his perspective on the future of our community. Ron, apologies for the delay, but thank you so much for being here. You got you muted.
There we go. Anyway, I was saying thank you so much. It's an honor as a guy who doesn't miss any of these. I'm sure after you announced last week that I was going to be on, that everybody said, "Oh, here's our opportunity to schedule something next Friday." So I'm glad it's just you and I talking today, Jim.
Well, and now partially our fault because we made people wait 15 minutes, and it's just, you know, Murphy's Law. It figures on the one that we have you on. So great to have you here. Before as we start, as you know, our first question, first and foremost, where are you zooming in from today, and what are you having for lunch?
Well, today I'm coming to you from the palatial executive suite of the worldwide headquarters of Wilshire Health and Community Services right here on South Street. And you know, Jim, I'm a big sandwich guy, so I got my Gus's sandwich. We live around the block, and you know, we tend to like to go to Gus's, and Jim didn't pay me to say this, but as staff knows, I use the business directory for the Slow Chamber as my yellow pages, and I try to go to places that are chamber members. And so, sorry High Street, sorry Lincoln Market, but I went to Gus's today. And well, can't forget Coke Zero, my drug of choice.
Congrats, we do, and we'll do a share as Pepsi One. In fact, because of the aluminum shortage, I only get small little cans now, but hoping to get back to the big cans, but diet nonetheless. So let's kind of jump right in here. Did you start out with a kind of a career goal of getting into healthcare? How did that come to be?
You know, it's both interesting and not interesting, but I do call healthcare the career that chose me. I actually started my career as a sports writer. You know, all I ever wanted to do, I have a journalism undergrad degree. I was on the school newspapers. My first job out of college, I was a sports editor of a little daily in the Central Valley. And all I ever wanted to do was be the beat writer for the LA Dodgers for the LA Times. That's all I ever wanted to do. And I thought maybe as I got older, maybe I'd transition to be their PR director or something. I just wanted to hang around the Dodgers my whole life. And so, a few years into my career, there is a hospital in Inglewood, actually, near the Los Angeles airport, called Centinela Hospital Medical Center. And at the time, they were the official hospital to every pro sports team in Los Angeles. They had been the official hospital to the LA '84 Olympics. And long story short, they were looking for a sports guy to teach the hospital business too. And 31 years later, I left my last hospital.
Wow. So Centinela, they had some I mean, I know that from all the great work they did in sports. So you must have been there during probably an interesting time, right?
You know, I was there not too long after Dr. Frank Jobe, I'll say, invented the Tommy John surgery. And I started there right after a guy by the name of Jim McMahon, who was the quarterback for the Chicago Bears Super Bowl team, had just this horrific shoulder surgery. Nobody in the country could figure out, and Dr. Jobe got him, back to playing time. I'm old enough to say that I covered the Lakers, Magic Johnson's rookie year. Now people go, Magic Johnson, isn't he the one that wore those short shorts? But and I covered the Angels one year into the playoffs, and it was a fun life for a young guy until I decided to break my vow of poverty and leave journalism.
Well, it's understandable, but that sounds really interesting. And so you were there, you said, in '84, right? Covering the Olympics?
So '84, I was actually working as the first full-time athletic publicist for the Cal State Northridge Athletic Department. I spent 5 years as the sports information director and head of the athletic news bureau at Cal State Northridge. And with the Olympics in Los Angeles, I got asked if I would be the venue press chief for boxing. So I was there for all 12 days, all 212 bouts. That was the year the Russians boycotted. So the US won 9 gold medals, Paul Gonzalez and Tyrell Biggs. And Holyfield actually got a bronze that year because he was declared the default. But it was a fun time. But I will tell you that since 1984, I have not watched a boxing match to its end.
that filled the entire gamut for you, huh?
It did.
That's fabulous. So then you ended up, obviously that transition into the healthcare industry. What was it that then brought you to SLO, or how did you end up in the Central Coast?
Well, I spent 18 years with Tenet Healthcare, and the first four I've spent in the Los Angeles area, in the San Fernando Valley, and then over on the west side. And my wife is from here. And although the silly girl decided to move to Santa Monica with me when I couldn't find work up here, literally 15 months after she sold her business, uprooted everything, moved to Santa Monica, and was having a great time. As you can imagine, 23 years in Los Osos and then bright lights, big city in Santa Monica. An opportunity came at Sierra Vista, and I was fortunate enough to be hired, and we relocated here to spend the last I think 13 years of my hospital career with Sierra Vista in Twin Cities.
Well, I'm sure from your perspective, my perspective, coming to this community is amazing, right? It's an easy transition to pump the brakes. Your wife Paula moving from Los Osos to LA, that must have been a bit of a culture shock for her.
This is a true story. First day, so we bought a condo together, and we were living right near downtown Santa Monica. And we were walking to the grocery store, which was just we were 2 blocks from Wilshire Boulevard. And we were walking to the grocery store right after she moved there, probably the first week. And she starts picking up trash, because that's what you do on the Central Coast. You make your community more beautiful. You don't like people who litter. And I just said, you're going to get really tired of doing that after a while, because it's endless. And so she transitioned, and she's kind of a small town girl, although she's born and raised in Long Beach. She's a small town girl. She raised her family here, and so I said, you're probably going to have to drive someplace, maybe even the freeway, to find work. Well, always wanting to make me a liar. She found a job 6 blocks from home. She rode her bike or walked, and here's the girl who just loved it here. And my sister moved up here 30 years ago, so I wasn't moving to a foreign place. I was here so often, but she was the one who cried when I said, hey, let's move back to the Central Coast.
Well, she essentially hit the lottery finding a job within 6 blocks. I mean, you should have taken her to Vegas at that moment, anywhere in LA. If you get a job close to you, you never let that job go. And
as you know, my 16-mile commute to downtown Los Angeles took 45 minutes, and I don't even know why you lived where you lived to drive to downtown Los Angeles.
It's a disease, and then you got to get rid of it. Well, you talked about a 45-minute drive. So, as you were driving from downtown back to Santa Monica, did you and the wife have some communication in there?
So another true story. So I was at St. Vincent Medical Center downtown Los Angeles, or just west of downtown. And so I would make sure that I would call her when I was getting to my car in the parking garage, and and let her know that she could expect me in a reasonable 45, 50 minutes. My second day at Sierra Vista, and we lived exactly 1.2 miles from Sierra Vista, I called her from the parking lot and I said, I'm on my way home. And for those of you who know, my wife will appreciate this. She said, and you'll be home in 5 minutes. So would you quit calling me?
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's such a, again, it goes back to that change of like, yeah, it's 2 minutes. When I moved a little further away, people are like, why'd you move so far away? I'm like, oh guys, I had to go do this just to get to the freeway in order to drive an hour. So this is amazing community. And so you're here, you get up here into Sierra Vista, and now you're working over at Wilshire doing some incredibly things. Have you seen, how has the pandemic kind of changed healthcare? You've seen it pre-COVID and after. How has that changed healthcare in general?
Yeah, the pandemic, really stressed the healthcare system, and particularly for sectors like the hospitals and for doctors. People didn't want to come into the office. Hospitals were not doing any surgeries or elective surgeries, so they didn't, quote unquote, waste their PPE. It was a really scary time for all of us. We were fortunate in that at Wilshire, we had unknowingly prepared for something like COVID, because we spent a year and a half or more getting our house in order pre-COVID for a lot of good reasons. And then COVID hit, and we were fortunate at Wilshire that we were able to kind of see our way through it. For a smaller agency like ours, getting PPE was a challenge. Of course, you had people who didn't want you coming into their home for physical therapy or for nurse visits or things like that. And then, in an industry where your majority of your employees are female and a good majority of those are childbearing age, and then kids are not in school, we had some staffing issues, some not issues, but staffing challenges, at the beginning of COVID. But here we are, 6 months into what I call the new abnormal. Thank you, Michael Gunther, my good friend and neighbor. And we're just kind of hitting our stride. And unfortunately, business has been, you never, even when I was at Sierra Vista in Twin Cities, I'd say, well, I don't want your business, but you can, if you do have to come into the hospital, choose us. And so, unfortunately, people don't generally, we see people when they're sick or injured, they don't want to see us and they can't wait till we get out of their, get out of their lives. It's not a good place to start for patient satisfaction, but we've done, I'm really proud of what we've accomplished here at Wilshire, and our business has been steady.
Well, I mean, you brought up a really interesting point. So in there, I'm someone who's I'm not fearful of the disease, but certainly cautious. But having someone come into my home would pose kind of a question and an issue, potentially. But how did you guys deal with that? I mean, and then you talked about, you're not one of those who can probably work from home, but are there solutions in there that led to potentially at least fixing some of those issues?
Jim, here's what I'm really proud of, and I'm not here to do a commercial for Wilshire, but we spent about a year and a half really looking at our operations, and it was important for us to do that. We had some manual processes, we had some person-dependent processes. We really needed to kind of reconfigure how we could be more efficient and things like that. That was in anticipation of January 1st, 2020, when the biggest change in healthcare reimbursement from the federal government was coming in. We had 2 years to ramp up for it. So to ramp up for that, we also ramped up, all of our systems and all of our software. We did a complete reboot on our electronic health record and all that kind of thing. So not anticipating COVID, we were ready for COVID. And when COVID hit, I've been in organizations and some of our competitors too, they laid people off and they kind of retrenched and they shrunk. We leaned in. Tricia Smith is a CEO who believes in investing today for the future, and she's willing to take the budget hit today, explain it to the board because it's going to pay off in the future. And not only did we not lay anybody off, thankfully, we're a mission-driven nonprofit, and we really do want to be that organization that takes care of its employees. So not only did we not lay anybody off, we found other opportunities for some people to do and fill in, but we leaned in. We hired extra physician liaison staff where other people were laying people off. We doubled down. We're the only home health agency currently doing telehealth. We've been doing it for 11 years and really well for the last 4.5 years. So we leaned in and we just about doubled our spend on telehealth as well, because people didn't want us in their homes. And so, you know, and that's and it's been paying off for the last 6 months. And I'm suspecting it's going to pay off into the future.
So looking at that telehealth, you know, I'm not sure a lot of our folks out there have any idea. Is that just you zoom in on a phone call, an iPad, a laptop? Do I check my own temperature? What does that feel like, or how does that work?
Wilshire is an incredibly horizontal company. And so at our core, we do home health and we do hospice. And then we have our community services division that does all kinds of charitable things in the community, like give people rides to the doctor and go grocery shopping for them and things like that. And people probably don't know that our creative mediation services are the mediators under a contract with the county at the small claims court. When the judge says go mediate, that's one of our employees. We have a dispute resolution that we have a contract with the city for. As you can imagine, in this city, we have a lot of landlord tenant kinds of things. And, you know, and so we just have a lot of vertical, a lot of horizontal programs to us. And so one of the things that we really have invested heavily is telehealth. So if you're a patient who has one of what they call the big nine, you have congestive heart failure or chronic pulmonary disease or diabetes or something, you know, something like that, we will actually physically send you out a tablet. It has a blood pressure cuff. It has a pulse oximeter. It has a digital scale. You know, one of the indications that you're with your congestive heart failure is you retain water, so you put on weight. So if you're putting on too much weight, we have a digital scale. You know, so we send you out all those kinds of things, and we can monitor you daily, twice a day, once a week, whatever your case, you know, might mean. We also have a app, you know, that we can push out to your cell phone that is a lot less invasive. You don't get all the peripherals with it, but somebody can check in with you all the time, ask you all the right questions. We have a check-in service on Thursdays. We like to call our patients who are on a service and, you know, make sure that you have enough, you know, pharmaceuticals to get through the weekends. You don't, you know, run in panic that your doctor appointments are set up for you the next week. So we have that, and we also started a primary care service here, primary care doctor practice here. So we go into skilled nursing facilities, assisted living facilities, board and cares, and, you know, 84% of our patients have opted in. It's an opt-in that have opted into our app, and so they have it right there on their cell phone.
That's incredible. And I mean, I wanted to get back to some of those other services you provide, but real quick. So thinking about telehealth in that way, I mean, literally that you're sending the tools to them so that you can monitor through technology. That seems like it would be an incredibly important thing for rural counties like SLO or places that just don't have that immediate access. Have you seen that in anywhere else in the industry, or is that?
A lot of people are doing telehealth. I don't think a lot of places are doing it really well. We have a unique service. We have an affiliation with our technology partner in the Silicon Valley. They have non-clinical people that will check in with you. And then if you get a red alert or a yellow alert, and I couldn't even begin to, being the non-clinical person in the room, I couldn't even begin to tell you what triggers that. But then you get an immediate call from our nurse. If we need to, we can, and the doctor's available, we'll three-way in your cardiologist or your primary care doctor or something like that. So, you know, it's, you know, the state average is 14% of people who are on home health get readmitted to the hospital. Our patients that choose not to be on one of our peripherals or one of our devices is 9% readmission rate. For those patients who are actively on our telehealth services, our readmission rate to hospitals once you've been discharged is under 3%.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible work, just because at a time when there's, you know, lots of concerns about strains being put on ERs and all of those, the ability to, lessen that load in any way can be incredibly impactful. So it sounds like you guys are doing some amazing work over there.
What's really cool is they're all 4G enabled. And so if someone's all the heck the way out in Creston or beyond Heritage Ranch, they don't have to worry about having a Wi-Fi connection be able to get to us.
Wow. That's impressive. That's really impressive work. Congratulations to your team on doing this great work. And again, getting out in front, which we're all learning, right? We'd all prefer to be in person. We'd all love to have that in all things we do, to be in person. But there is this reality that we're going to have some kind of connection, as distance is a problem, or bandwidth literally over technology is a problem. So well done to you and your team.
It's really gratifying. It truly is.
So looking at kind of, when I first got here, I was told, it's Wilshire Health. And then everybody's like, no. You got to tell you, there's so much more. So you mentioned mediation. How did all of these other services come to play? Were they off of that? You saw that there was a need based on some of those other things, or was it just like, hey, we can be helpful in these areas?
That all predated me, but your mental health and well-being is almost as important, and sometimes a lot more important than your physical well-being. So our mission, our stated mission statement is helping people live a better life. And so anything that kind of fits into that, we've embraced. We're going to be starting very soon a outpatient mental health counseling center for seniors. Very few psychologists, psychiatrists take Medicare in our county. There's a need, and so we're gonna focus on seniors. That's another thing that will fall under our umbrella. We actually have a contract with the county. It's called our Full Service Partnership Program. They assign to us 20 moderate to severely mentally ill patients that they normally take care of, and we're their 24/7 case managers. And so if something goes wrong at 3 a.m., they call us, not the county. And it really has helped people remain housed. We manage their pharmaceuticals. We just hired a psychiatrist. And so that's another program that we do under our community services banner.
Again, really, really incredible stuff there. And so one of the things you talked about was the idea that when you your company's model there to lean into the crisis, to look at what's going on. Do you see that as things for our community? I mean, you're serving on a ton of boards, and you are a great, great volunteer to help on everything you do. Is that something we should be looking at overall for our community?
Yeah, I'm not here to give business advice to anybody. I can just tell you throughout my career that sometimes it does make sense to retrench and relook at things, but I don't know any business that's ever really slashed its way to success. And we all need to be able to make investments so that we can ensure our future. I can certainly understand, here we are, we're just kind of a little nimble nonprofit. There's 5 of us that make decisions. And so we can do things like be nimble and decide we're going to invest, and we'll kind of figure out where in the budget we're going to do it. When you're working for a larger corporation, or as I did, a Wall Street corporation, and people in Dallas are telling you what to do, you're have a little less opportunity to do that. But I'm always been a fan. Now my wife was a solo business owner for 30 years in this county, and mostly in Los Osos, and she always talks about sharpening your blade. And a lot of times, rather than fear competition, we should probably look introspectively and see what we can do. I've never been a fan of people talking about outside the box thinking. I've always referred to inside the box thinking, because I think most companies have the tools that they need to do right here within their own toolbox, and they just need to sharpen up and see and look inward before they look outward. That's just my long-held business philosophy.
That's fabulous, and it's really interesting, and it's something that we've really been talking about lately for the city of SLO, even for our own community. We're coming up on an election. You've been an active supporter of Measure G. And it sounds like that is kind of that idea where we have the tools, we can do some things to support ourselves. Is that kind of that same theory for our community level, not just on the business side?
Well, Jim, I am a big supporter of Measure G for a number of reasons. But I will say that I've been a longtime critic of our city's kind of approval system. Let's go through 16 committees and then let's debate it for 3 years and then we finally do it. Well, you know what the big benefit of COVID has been? Derek and his staff, bless their hearts, they've just done stuff. Oh, we need parklets, we're going to put up parklets. We need to fix that whatever it was under Doc Bernstein's for the last 10 years, we're just going to do it. No one's on the street anyways. We needed a bike lane on Higuera. Let's put in a bike lane. We didn't go through any committees. We didn't go through any input. We just did what's right for our community. And I really believe in all sincerity that Measure G is the right thing to do for this community. And if I had to ask myself what's the scariest question I could ask myself on a daily basis, it's what will this community look like without Measure G, without that funding? We're going to have draconian cuts that our city leadership is not going to want to make, but they're going to have to make. They're going to have to start making those decisions. And the fact that about 70% historically is paid for by tourists, that it will really give us a revenue stream to keep doing things that we're doing and not have to cut back on parks and paving and things like that. And to me, I just don't understand the opposition to it, because at the end of the day, we're not going to have the burden of paying for the majority of it.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing it in other communities, and not knocking those communities, but they're already seeing the problem and having to make, as you talked about, the draconian cuts that are going to impact our residents. So, it's, again, a great conversation because it really talks about how you really think about where our community is going. And again, someone like you who serves on so many levels, on the business side, on the, the side of our nonprofits, our leadership teams. I'm so glad to hear kind of your thoughts on that.
Stop saying that, because my wife might be listening. She doesn't know how many boards I'm on.
No, I looked into the list. She's not on there yet. Of course, this will be live, so she can probably easily find it.
Nobody's watching. Yeah, it's okay.
No. So I want to kind of get a little bit more on Ron here. So if you weren't at Wilshire or in healthcare, what kind of work do you think you'd be doing?
If I was smart enough earlier in my career, and I had already spent 5 years in kind of a senior level at an athletic department, I would have, if I had thought of it, I absolutely would have gone into athletic administration and been the athletic director at some college someplace and just having, a really good time. But, I am not sorry that healthcare chose me. It's been a really good career. And I just don't see myself doing anything else at this point. Sadly, I really have no hobbies. I take no pride in like home repair and things like that. As a matter of fact, if there's anything I can write a check to have somebody else do, I just do it. And so, if I'm, we have a robust social life, but I'm very happy doing what I'm doing.
I do see on your Facebook, you're a bike. It seems like you're a bike enthusiast, though.
That's the one thing that my wife and I, Paula and I really like to do together is cycle. And we've taken cycling vacations all over the country. You've never cycled until you were 32,000 other riders for the 5-borough ride in New York City. And so, we've done that literally all over the country. And now that she's been retired, she just kicks my butt because she's out riding, about 100 miles a week, and I get to ride on the weekends and watch her go up the hills. But we love being on our bicycles, and I'm really thrilled. I just was out this morning and saw we have a new green lane off in the Pomo onto High Street, and High Street has a separated bike lane now, and I just can't tell the city how much I just appreciate them looking out for the safety of the cyclists.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. As someone, who did bicycling and down in LA and Southern California and up here, you really can truly appreciate here the safety that is included with that, and, building the distance between folks, right?
I used to ride every Sunday morning. I used to ride up PCH from Santa Monica to Malibu. And it's like, what was I thinking?
That we're thankful you're still here after doing that, because that's crazy. You don't even want to do that in a car just because of how bad it
So
is.
true. So true.
So kind of, obviously it's crazy. We're already a half hour into this. And so, I want to get you, our final question here. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
So, again, here in the new abnormal, we've been trying to do two things very consistently. So tonight, Friday night, we have been going to Avila Beach and having a picnic on the beach. And we call it Burrito on the Beach. And we're actually, for the first time, going to be meeting a couple of friends, of course, socially distant. They live in Avila, and they asked if they could join us. So we'll be picnicking on the beach tonight in Avila. And then on Sundays, we've really been trying to take a drive someplace, get out of the house, see a little bit different scenery, whether we've gone to Ragged Point or Cambria or, down to wherever. We've just been trying to take a drive on Sundays. And Saturday night, our 3-year-old granddaughter is spending the night. And what more fun could you ever have than having her there? So that's what our weekend is looking like.
That's terrific. That's a fabulous weekend. That's a great plan. Nice job, sir. And again, I love that you're not taking for granted all the great things you have around you. Sounds like every weekend almost does that. Plus you get the benefit of having the grandkids around, which is truly awesome. So if someone is interested in connecting with Wilshire and potentially using any of their service, either for themselves or a family member, where can they find more information about it?
Well, I would really encourage people to go to our website, wilshirehcs.org. We also have a loan closet. The Rizzo Family Loan Closet was through a grant last year. So if somebody can't afford or just needs a temporary loan of a walker or a wheelchair or a knee scooter or something like that, we just let you use it. Just all we ask you to do is return it. A shower chair, bedside commode, whatever it is. We have those. So, that's a service that we do as part of our mission. Of course, we own and operate the Hope Chest, Wilshire Hope Chest thrift store downtown, which funds hospice care. It wasn't that long ago. I'll just give you an example. It wasn't that long ago that there was a gentleman who was unhoused. He was being discharged from one of the local skilled nursing facilities. He very likely, was at end of life and would have had to go and pass away under a bridge or at the homeless shelter or something like that. We paid for his last week of stay there so he could have our services and have a dignified death. So those are the things that that are funded by the Hope Chest. So I'd encourage people to go and again, we're just for a smaller 165 employees, with a big service area all the way down to Santa Ynez and past Heritage Ranch. We're a pretty complex organization, so rather than me taking up the entire time, on the screen, I'd encourage people to go to our website.
That's awesome. Well, Ron, we're so appreciative that you were able to join us. You hung in there. Sorry for, again, the issues, the technology issues. But it's been truly a joy, and getting your take on our community is an honor. So thanks for being with us today.
The honor's been mine, and the Chamber and you are good friends, and I appreciate your having me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone out there for eating lunch with us. We hope to see you next week when we're joined by Scott Yu, the music director for Festival Mosaic, about the upcoming San Luis Obispo episode of his PBS show, Now Hear This. If you have an idea for a future working lunch guest or someone you want to learn more about, send us an email at slowchamber@slowchamber.org. We appreciate all of you for tuning in. We hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week. Have a great one.